Welcome back to Cosmic Brilliance, folks. This is the last of a four-part series where we have our two returning brilliant creator guests, Dragonface Super Soldier Apollymi Mandylion and Void Dragon Prime Creator Dr. Amir Jahanjiri, who has 7 degrees and all abilities. They both are key players out there fighting nightly for our protection. So, in today's show, we will put emphasis on the overdue, that's my editorial comment, steps that are being implemented for more compassionate and effective soul reformation in Hell's Kingdom. Since Apollymi, as you learned in our previous shows, is the first princess there and has an influential part to play in soul rehabilitation. This is very exciting because Hell was getting way too many returning souls that had not learned their lessons. So, new progressive rehabilitation techniques needed to be implemented. We will end this series with a couple of fun stories that Apollymi will share about her personal participation in 2 events called Hell's Tournament and Hell's Grand Ball. So please note that our very honored Prime Creator Dragon, Dr. Amir, has been to the Infernal Realms and talked to the many kings there, and has been overly gracious to support and patiently participate in this series, adding his expertise and wisdom as time permits. This series was requested by Apollymi to help us all be better educated about the Hell Realms while practicing the spirit of neutrality, which is a major goal of personal soul ascension on Earth. Therefore, Apollymi will be answering the majority of questions. So please understand that I'm not just being rude. Okay. So I will do a really brief recap of our last part 3 for the first timers here. We covered the Tree of Life's energetic water like rivers and gave descriptions of the various kingdoms those rivers lead to in the Hell Realms specifically. Apollymi also elaborated who Karen the Ferryman is and afterlife reaper duties, and to remember to ask any being you meet on the other side after you cross over or drop your body if they are a karmic deity who has taken the golden karmic oath from source of all that is, and therefore can offer you free transport for your soul safety and accommodate any afterlife options you may have that your karmic tier allows. So, Apollymi also briefly mentioned Azrael, who was the original angel of death and who evidently retired from that title, good for him, and now works at the desk at the front gates of hell, which I was surprised to discover was a real thing. So he was a fallen angel and is now more neutral than anything. And yes, Apollymi explained that there is an entrance called the Gates of Hell where some sign in, and it also is a way of getting a soul census tracting for soul safety. So this entire series goal, to be clear, is to empower you to be better informed before you drop your body. Before, not necessarily after. It's nice to think about ahead of time to make the wisest soul choices for yourself. So let's start part 4. As we did for your maximum protection in the previous shows, I will have Apollymi read out loud something called Source's Golden Contract of Protection, so that none of this information on video or podcasts can be misused by anyone from any realm. So, Apollymi, would you be willing to read that now?
Calling upon source creation, I create a golden contract for this video recording that no names of beings, the conscious souls tied to them mentioned in this video via verbal, written, thought, or light speak by any conscious being who watches, listens, receives, or participates in any way, shape, or form of any part of this video will summon, be heard, or recognized by the entities mentioned in true name or affiliation of name by anyone who speaks them from watching this video or the knowledge received by it. No conscious being or AI is allowed to use this information in the video of any part against source creation, the entities mentioned in this video, to their own benefit, or change any timelines in any plane, dimension, realm, universe, omniverse, or oververse. Let it be in all time, space, and existence for the oververse and omniverse of Hanova, source, creation, and throughout.
So be it, and thank you. So, we also like to share recent updates with you, like we did at the start of the previous past three shows. There's not a lot of new things to tell you, but I would like, how about Amir first and then Apollymi to do any new updates they know about having to do with soul auditing, protection of the Omniverse, Ascension, anything they feel is relevant so that you know we're forging ahead as best we can. Go
Well,
ahead, Amir.
the general theme of this period in human history is a grand end of cycles and an audit, accountancy, taking um, um, into account records that have been kept in honesty, an audit. Basically, this is now coming down to lower dimensions of reality. And of course, because of its density and viscosity, there is a cause and effect or sequence or time involved. So unlike higher dimensions, this is not quite so instantaneous. Many beings, especially those incarnated in human form, are now under review. Many that have acquired abilities, technology through violation are now being audited. And so this is very important. And they're kicking and screaming, putting up a tantrum. No, 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 this was done fair and square. And then they are presented with the laws of the cosmos and the ground rules of Earth. That in fact, no, this was a violation and you absolutely knew what you were doing every time you did it. Just because it has gone on for so long doesn't make it right. Essentially, the last part of toxicity is bubbling to the surface in the human collective to be purged. But now, also, in addition to this, it's extending to inner earth societies and civilizations, other dimensions of reality. So, essentially, dimension -6 to dimension +6. And so, this is now um, inevitably going to take some time because of the density of physical reality, but it's the same grandiose pattern. Um, there's difficulty in the lessons of Earth. Evidently, some of it is too hard, and adding another million years will make zero difference. So, those that were going to benefit from it or graduate from it, they have, and now they're just waiting, playing with their thumbs until the horn is sang or used. That final introduction of the end of great cycles. So this is what we're seeing. So much warfare and violence and chaos may take a while, but there will be no more extinction events. That is a big no-no. That does not serve any utility. So that is good. There may be attempts by those that are losing their power to try and shift timelines, but there are very, very powerful guardians and gatekeepers preventing this from happening. And so all things are on the mend. It's good news for those that are of integrity, who have preserved that spark of the beloved source of all things, their heart, that soul shard, and haven't killed it off. So, from what I am seeing, it's just louder. It doesn't have any more energy, especially humans. They can kick a tantrum like no other being, but it's very positive.
Spoken like a dragon. Folks, one of the things that dragons are learning, and maybe you can mention something like this because people would appreciate this. As you know by now from our shows, you have many types of beings allowed to be in what appears to be a human humanoid body for maximum diversity and growth. Dragons are absolutely close to the strongest. And so sometimes it takes them what they can easily deal with, what they jump into. Sometimes they need to remember a little bit for other species that it's not quite as easy. Apollymi, do you want to say something about that?
I'm still learning that not everyone has the mental and soul fortitude of a dragon. And so, going through the super soldier projects and having the worst of the worst done to me, and I'm not the only one. There's a few other people that I know of that are of different species. We seem to be a little bit hardier than a lot of other people, and our experiences are still to our own. So being compassionate about what other people can take when it comes to mental trauma, when it comes to emotional trauma, when it comes to physical endurance, even in a daily life, um, is something that we have to still be very mindful of because dragons have a lot of ego and sometimes it can get in the way a little bit. We mean well. We're there to support you and have the cheerleader pom-poms, but we forget that some people aren't, they either haven't had the experience to build the endurance and the understanding of how far they can go, or they're just not there yet. So need to learn to be a bit more compassionate.
And the reason why I brought this up is Apollymi learned that herself, being a very powerful dragon fey being, and she is in charge, which you will learn later, of implementing greater compassion and support for the redemption. And so, because trust me, you want a dragon on your side, okay? So we need them. I call them the noble dragons. I prefer to say that. We need them. And, just like any strong force of nature, they don't, sometimes it's hard to be able to relate to something different that has softer energy or whatever. But after all, that's what this whole experiment was about, is to create the greatest resilience in, a humanoid body. So thank you for that. Now, Amir and Apollymi both have told me this, but I think it's fascinating. And just to let people know, is you both had mentioned to me separately that when, if I have this right, that when a being is soul audited, your soul is missing from your body for a short amount of time. It can be, if you're a real good person, for maybe seconds or minutes. And if you're super complex, like a super soldier running multiple, it can be days. So, who wants to elaborate a little bit on that?
I can begin, and Apollymi, please complete what I don't know about. The audit is undressing a salad, separating, going back to um, every moment in infinite detail. This is not something that can be done computationally or by any individuated ego or consciousness from the beloved source. It is a task done by source, considering everything. It is absolute divine justice. And so, therefore, there is no favoritism. Every claim of innocence is carefully considered with infinite compassion. And the outcome sometimes may be really surprising because in this form, as a human, we are just aware of just a little minutia of the entirety of what truth is and what goes into it. There's so many factors. And then we have those that are habitually acting in integrity. This is going to be a lot faster. And then there are those that are on the opposite side, the clever ones, right? Oh, here's a loophole, let's abuse it to death. And so this takes longer, at least in terms of what the linear time where our conscious mind operates is involved. So there may be periods of even days where the person is kind of in zombie mode, not quite here, not quite there. What's going on? I'm here, the brain is working, because there's only so much on the body and the consciousness, but the rest of it is being taken apart, put back together, then in smaller groups, put back together, taken apart. The whole thing is considered. So if your heart is light, it's quick.
Yeah.
It's quick. Hey, off you go.
But it also might be a reason. I don't know if human, quote, human souls, or human bodies, because I know this is going on in the entire Omniverse from what Apollymi told me. Uh,
Oververse.
Oververse, that's right. New term, folks. The oververse of the Omniverse. Okay. So, it might be if you have a couple days or moments of disorientation, it might explain that is what I wanted people to know. Paula, me, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and so when your soul is missing, um, there's a lot of side effects that can happen depending on how connected you are, depending on how awakened you are. And I don't mean woke, I mean how spiritually aware, how connected you are to your astral body, how connected you are to your higher self. You're gonna feel lost. You're gonna feel possible abandonment. You're gonna feel disoriented. Uh, you know, spiritually lost, mentally lost. Some people can get physical side effects of feeling panic mode, high anxiety out of nowhere. Um, some people will get feedback from their audit, so they'll be going through like certain scenarios in their head. Uh, just random stuff. Anyone who's been through the MK Ultra project and had weird scenarios, it's very similar. It can be hard to distinguish the two. Uh, so stay strong, be mindful. If you need to stay home, stay home. Uh, Make sure that you ground your reality. If you have other people around you who can feel the MK Ultra projects or who are energy sensitive, make sure you guys feedback each other honestly. It helps keep your sanity and helps ground you quite a bit until you're done with your soul audit. During this time, if you are getting feedback of any tests or constantly replaying something that you did that got you karmatic debt in your head, do yourself a favor and reflect. That's all I can say. Please be mindful of what you're receiving. Please be mindful of how you're feeling. And that's all I can really legally say about that. So
Right.
I don't know what allows an audit to pass, to be honest. The Immortal Seven are not in charge of the audit. It is source of all creation itself. So whatever source decides passes, passes. There has been a lot of power struggles and everything going on because some people have not passed. And it's going to be a very turbulent time um, during this audit. And the audit, again, is Oververse. It is completely an Oververse. So you have 10, a lot of little universes in every Omniverse, and there's 7 Omniverses, each one controlled by an Immortal Seven. Okay. And then you have the Oververse. So Hanova is basically in the Oververse. If you can guess, that is a lot of souls of consciousness. Everything that has consciousness is getting audited. They're not taking any chances. So it's going to take a while. For those who have been brought to Source's attention that wrongdoings have happened, these ones are getting audited first, even though they might be isolated pockets. And then they're going to start going through everybody. As Amir said, this universe is now an audit, whether you're on the list of no-nos or not. So
Now, I'm just curious, does this include every consciousness, like plants, animals, everything?
They are not taking any chances. The source wars were that bad.
Well, this is the thing. Um, a universe is like a refinery, like a petrochemical plant. Um, the contents are used in one universe, and then the age comes and the universe dies, and we have a new universe, like breathing. So, what comes in and out is essentially shards of the beloved source. What is refined is in terms of experience and expression. So maybe a soul that has mastered all the lessons of another universe will come here to experience being a houseplant or a fishing village cat, right? Or just a crystal. And so, in that sense, there is no better or worse, there is no hierarchy. It is all consciousness, it is all divine. And so now, what a soul shard, what a spark of the divine may do, is express beauty and gain wisdom. And so that design evolves, or they may become degenerative and the whole thing snuffs out, the flame goes out. That also happens. So there is quite naturally evolution based on merit. But just because something is a single cell organism doesn't exempt it from an audit.
I'm so pleased to hear that. Thank you for even more explanation of that.
And one more thing, the audit. People must not fear because source is that love that lies at the foundation of all creation. Many will not even notice. And some will come back with a piece of cheesecake and a new pet out of the audit, yeah, gaining gifts. And then that small proportion that have intentionally caused problems for divine evolution of consciousness, they will experience harshness. There's no two ways about it, including loss of spiritual abilities that have been gained in dishonorable ways, even going down to early onset of dementia. So it is serious, but there is no fear. We know in our heart we have done our best. And so the ones that are really targeted for, let's say, reduction or refinement, again, this is not a total elimination of the consciousness. Only those parts that are out of balance are removed. So they can also continue to evolve. There's no cruelty or vengeance, it is divine justice. So it's very different to what we understand to be going to trial and getting a judgment or sentence. It is of a different nature.
That's so important. Thank you for that. Yeah, because this is not a time to be fearful, but a little sobering, we will say. I don't know if you're allowed to say how long can a soul be out of, say, a human body or this form and still the body functions.
It, it
Anyone?
really it really just depends. I mean, again, the body still has its own identity, and so it's going to function whether the soul is in it or not. It just makes it more vulnerable, unfortunately. During the soul audit, there is no chance of possession. There's no chance of um, a soul walking in. It is from the audit itself is from source itself, and source will protect you during your soul audit. Now, astral traveling, if you're just doing it on your own, provides a different complication because if you're not correct on doing your protection, that can happen. But because it is from source, you will be protected when your soul is out of your body. It is up to this body, your body, to make sure that you are maybe not taking as much risks. If you're not feeling great that day, take care of yourself. This some people who are very connected to their higher selves and get more symptoms than others, be gentle with yourself. Make sure you stay hydrated, drink electrolytes, but most importantly, be emotionally forgiving of yourself during this time. You might not be able to focus as much. So
Mhm. Great. Amir,
you're like, oh, wonderful.
Beautifully said.
beautifully
Beautifully said.
said. No, beautifully said. um, More self-love and just to be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling disoriented, try and rest, and just like you said.
Yeah, don't go skiing, don't go waterboarding. Like if you can't focus and you're emotionally distraught, you know, be gentle with yourself. Go pamper yourself. Do something that's relaxing.
Oh, darn, I'm gonna have to cancel my parachute jump. Okay, so let's address the main topic. Thanks, guys. Hell's correction facility zones and more supportive soul reformation. So, just really briefly, Apollymi shared already that the Hell's Correction Facility was created by Source of all that is to be a place of cleansing karma, debt for souls, outside of the law of one Hanova, which is Source's first universe. This allows free will souls to learn to make healthy choices in any kind of area without contaminating Source's pure first universe, contaminating in quotes. Many of the universes outside of Hanova are experimental for vast soul exploration and soul maturing options and diversity. So, a reminder that Hell, being located so close to Hanova, has many more physics, as Apollymi said, and frequencies to its creation than we do on Earth. That's an understatement. This allows for greater abilities and all forms of consciousness to reside there in Hell, which is another attraction for them. So, on the surface of Hell's planetoid are areas where souls can exist in a dreamlike world of their own making in protective soul wells to rest before reincarnating again. Those were all major facts I wanted to remind any first time listeners to go back and listen to because those were important points made by both our guests. So let's continue Apollymi with what are the four options that a good soul has after it signs into the gates of hell.
So once you sign the book, it basically authorizes you as a soul to be taken care of for the karmatic deities, which is, the emperor and empress of hell, who have taken the golden karma oath from source to house souls, to keep census on each soul, to protect them, and has the right to reincarnate them according to that soul's ascension, like progress. And this allows them to protect them from all sorts of other entities who would want to do harm to them. Now, as we know, auditing happens with every karmatic deity. Almost in every religion, even on Earth, there is some sort of audit, whether you have gained karma points or not. And this will determine on what kind of restful afterlife or rehabilitation afterlife that you will sustain. So the first choice for a person who signs the book, they go in front of the Emperor and Empress of Hell, and or just one of each. They both follow the same rules of karmatic debt audit. And according to a soul, you get shown your Akashic records, which is truthful. It is from source itself. It does not lie. There is no tampering with it. And yeah. Yeah, there is no tampering with the true archives. And you will go through, you will remember everything. It's very quick, and it doesn't take, like, if you live 50 years, it doesn't take 50 years to go through that. It's almost like a osmosis download. So you basically go through everything. The karmatic deity also sees all of this and then goes through each of the laws that is required to either pass as a neutral to positive soul or someone who has accumulated enough points in karmatic debt that you need to kind of adjust that a little bit, which we'll get into in a moment. if you are a positive to neutral soul, you have two options. Well, three options technically. The first option is to go to the top side of the planetoid of hell. There's the planetoid of hell, and then there's the empire of hell. The empire of hell takes up several dimensions and planes of existence. We're talking the void, the infernal realms, the abyss, the and then the realm of hell itself. There is a planetoid called Hell, which is where they keep the souls and where the Emperor and Empress resides. The top part of the planet, again, as we had spoken in earlier episodes of the series, is very vast in floral fauna. It's like a vacation spot. If you want to like go to the Caribbean for, a couple hundred years just to chill out, drink martinis or whatever you drink with coconuts and just walk by the beach. That is most certainly an option up there. They do have some quite nice areas. You're going to be living more in like kind of colonial times though. They don't make anything too exciting up there, so souls will have to leave eventually if they get bored. So don't expect any like grand hotels or anything up there.
And no tech is there either.
Yeah, no technology really. You're not going to be seeing cell phones in hell.
No video games.
No video games, no cell phones, no social media of any kind, except for very few people of the royal family and a few other people in hell. It's a very privileged responsibility down there. Um, But the souls can go up to the top part of the planet. They are very protected. No entities from the realms will mess with them. It is against karmatic source law to mess with a soul that is under the protection of the crown because they are part of the soul transference program, which means uh, the protection, the reincarnation, and the karmatic cleansing program that all karmatic deities have. So to hurt a soul that is under that program, there is very severe consequences. Very severe. Yeah. And these souls are always designated in an area where it's not easy to interact with them. So it's not easy to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this. The
Is
only time that really happens is kind of towards the gates of hell. But again, there's a lot of guards there. They're always constantly on watch. It hardly ever happens.
is
So
that to encourage more self-reflection?
no, no, people just break rules.
No, no,
And
not the protection, but the fact that you're left alone. I thought you said you're kind of
Long vacation.
oh,
oh
yeah.
no, on the top side, you get to interact with other souls. It's like going to any tourist spot. And this is the benefit other than going like this is the benefit versus going into the soul well is you actually get to interact with other souls. You get to just be yourself, have fun, build that community, build that trust, interact with everything. And then when you get bored, you can just decide to reincarnate at any time you want. You rest, your soul is fully rested. It feels great. You feel like you can tackle on another reincarnation, and then when you say you want to get reincarnated, then the Empress and Emperor of Hell will start looking for bodies that resonate with your ascension level, and your species. Now, remember, most of the Omniverse, okay, most of the omniverses, I should say, it is a little hard to reincarnate into different species if your species soul signature does not resonate with that. The higher the dimension, the less problem you really have. But even in other omniverses, there's several dimensions and planes that make it harder to reincarnate. So if you're only a 3.5 ascension mark, you're only going to really get into a 3.5 universe, parts of the omniverse, or even planets. So it's important to raise your ascension vibe, your ascension frequency, and stay up there because you can fall. It's really annoying. Um,
Just to be specific, for people, when you say the ascension frequency, are you talking the soul or the soul and the body both? Like the consciousness, or what is?
yeah, what we're talking about the consciousness of your, so when you ascend here physically, this body right here will start to evolve into a higher life form. And that is because of the piezoelectric ability of your bones and blood vessels. It's a natural science term, you can look it up. That your energy centers will start to vibrate and it can evolve and it can evolve you. So your soul will fit better in your body when the physical body is resonates better with it. And this is the same principle for ascension as well. When your astral body ascends from being a lower tier to a higher tier, we're not just talking about, knowledge, we're talking about full conscious awareness. Okay. Yes, there are some souls that are higher that get reincarnated into lower bodies, and it can still downgrade your ascension progression. You could have been seventh tier, and now because of this planet, you've downgraded into fifth because it's hard to live here when you're a higher being. You can't vibrate very well without it just being painful. Um, but you can evolve, and people are gonna be like, well, if I'm in heaven for whatever celestial kingdom you want to be in, or if I'm in hell, my soul, resonates with all dimensions. But that actually only applies to whatever omniverse and whatever universe your conscious soul was created. Everything is created from source, but your evolution of your soul actually creates the vibrations that are specific to you and specific to whatever plane of existence or dimension that you resonate with most. And so it's a constant thing that you have to evolve if you want to get reincarnated to higher areas. Because some souls are so advanced and have gone to the highest form of ascension that they can get reincarnated into like 100th tier, stating that's Hanova, okay, and not have a problem with it. All right. But if they tried to reincarnate into one down here, it would be like they're dead. It just hurts too much. And if a conscious soul was created of its first creation in this universe and tried to go to Hanova, it would just get destroyed. Think about a car getting hit by a bullet train. Okay, the frequencies just don't match.
So there's two-way evolution of the vessel, the human body, and the soul. And so the soul does evolve the body. So let's say a very powerful soul comes in and manages somehow to fit enough of their soul codes or light codes in the body, their offspring inherit it. And so you have bloodlines of incredibly powerful practitioners. And so, therefore, certain bloodlines become highly desirable. This is part of the abuse that has gone on here on Earth. A soul comes in, forces their way in, or blackmails their way into a certain body with all the abilities. And so there's heavy repercussions for this. But this is absolutely spot on. One of the reasons that the human body is so in demand, it has the capability to adapt and morph to a very, very significantly large variety of soul archetypes. Doesn't matter if you're an aspect of the beloved source of all things, pure, just source love and light, or an aspect of a void, or let's say a 50th tier soul, or a baby soul just coming into being, the first shard separated from source, the human body can handle it. Not many other archetypes of life have this capability.
That is so important. And from what I understand, was one of the reasons to create that for the most variety of hybrid options and experiences, correct? Yeah. Yeah. Wonderfully said, you both. Okay, that's good to know. Now, sometimes people are concerned that because they're shut down here and they don't have abilities activated, will they, when they cross over, will some of those activate? Were the souls more online? Do they need that to ascend higher? They're concerned about that. Who wants to?
So, uh, I'll answer this quick and then we'll get back to the options.
Yeah.
But whatever the soul, whatever the astral body interacts with down here, it takes with it to learn. Sometimes they don't learn anything during a lifetime, and sometimes they learn quite a bit. But as for abilities, if a person has more abilities for their astral body and couldn't really get the line of connection down here, say the body's just incapable of handling it, uh, your abilities really don't actually give you ascension, okay? you you could be like a Sierran, an Octurian, a Chakzuri, whatever, and still be at 30.5 tier. Your ascension comes from the evolution of acceptance, of learning neutrality, of how you behave and interact and perceive the universe around you. There is a sense of emotional maturity, of um, personal like reflection, and by the time that you're done with it, nothing really bothers you. Something bad could happen, and you're like, there's a lesson to be learned here. I take this with grace, I deal with it with grace. That doesn't mean that you have to take crap from a being that's trying to hurt you, but you can diffuse the situation usually. And if you can't, then you do what you have to do, but you don't do it violently, which I had to learn. So, um,
That
there's
is, go ahead.
again, it's that conscious evolution of learning your choices, versus just overreacting or not having the ability to react appropriately. Like when you consciously evolve to higher tiers, you're knowledge of this. So, you're more accepting of it. You don't try to make yourself the victim. You don't try to make yourself in power. You just are. And yes, when you learn this in a physical body, abilities can start appearing. I had abilities ever since I was a kid, as in the projects, got everything. I was still 3.5, okay, for my physical body. It wasn't until I started doing the Ascension after the Immortal Seven started giving me the knowledge to that I realized how disconnected I really was. And it was actually kind of embarrassing. Um,
Oh, well, that is so important. That is a really important point because it helps get rid of fear. It seems like, kind of summing it up really quickly, is learning to take self-responsibility, not taking things so personally unless they are, um, self-inquiry, and the maturity to come up with different solutions than extreme polarity is
yeah.
useful. And so that is so important. Thank you. So let's get back to the options that you were
Okay.
talking about.
So you have the ability again to go top side of Hell's um, planetoid, which they have water, mountains, snow. um, sorry, I'm not fun. Water, mountains, snow, tropical areas. They have terrain that doesn't even exist in this universe. So it's huge. The planetoid is very, very huge and very diverse. There's rules, very high rules that the souls have to attain up there. And there are guards. So, you can't be doing anything that will cause you karmatic debt. Otherwise, you can get reevaluated or taken out of the area. So it's pretty peaceful up there. I mean, people can have small arguments, but again, usually you have to like be responsible for yourself, and talk things out. But it's a nice place. I mean, you get to meet all sorts of different souls. Nobody looks, they're in their true astral selves. So there are souls that have evolved that aren't even the same species that their first consciousness was. And it's just a really good place to see a whole bunch of stuff. It's like summer camp, like on steroids. So I've been up there several times and it's nice. It's very relaxing. It's a little boring for me, so I usually reincarnate very quickly, but
Yeah.
Okay, Amir, did you want to add something?
Well, as above, so below, we also have this principle of polarity, light and void. And so now we are speaking about one pole of existence. But then, as you can imagine, both are divine. And so it would make sense that the other half of existence has similar rules and laws. That souls that go to heaven will also experience this peaceful environment to interact with others and to do some critical self reflection. And oh boy, the boredom hits. You get bored out of your mind. You say, oh, please throw me back in already. I'm going to off myself.
They're
I can't,
speaking
I
its
can't just,
dragons, so you know.
we get stir crazy a little easier than
there's,
most people.
there's only so many mojitos you can drink before you just get sick of it. Oh no, please, please, I want the adventure and the excitement. So it is all with compassion. There's grand logic and reason behind every part of it, and it's reflected on both sides. None is better, none is worse. They're both divine creation for the purpose of refinement, making possible experience. So I just thought I'll throw that in. Yeah,
Yeah,
avoid mojitos.
That's
but they're so good.
that's important. Okay, so those were the options you shared, three options you shared. So after soul auditing, if you have various karmic debt accumulated that needs cleansed, you go to something called Hell's Correction Facility Zones. So tell us about those zones, Apollymi, because that's the real meat of this too.
Yeah. So I just want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So the top side is the first option for any good soul or any neutral soul. The second option, if you don't really want to like, if that doesn't seem your jam and you want like the best afterlife ever, you can be asked to put into what we call the soul well. In the soul well, your consciousness goes in and you get to imagine whatever afterlife you want. If you want to be with your loved one that passed away 20 years ago, you're gonna get it. You can have like the best time ever with them. The bad thing is that you don't interact with anybody else. And so if you feel like you might be a good person, but if you still like you still have some guilt that happened or anything else, it can also influence you in that area. So it can also become kind of your own hell if you let that get to you. Um, so it's kind of a hit or miss. This is why we say it's always good to process everything and make sure you have nothing that you regret when you die. Most of like in any dimension. You know, you need to reflect. You need to learn to let things go. You need to reflect on, did I have the ability to even change the situation that was bad? Did I have the knowledge? This is part of self-forgiveness, and self-growth. So most of the time, like 90% of souls have a blast in the soul well. You are allowed to come out at any time. Of course, you're just been like, well, that was fun. I'm done. I want out. That person wants reincarnated. So again, you are allowed to leave both areas anytime you want. It is your choice. You are not a prisoner, nothing. Um, but the Soul Well provides a very restful experience for a lot of people where they can just have a blast in there. Go on roller coasters every day, live at, your favorite theme park every day with your family. Um, so the third option, if you're not a very great person and you have accumulated karmic debt, this isn't for someone who like, oh, I stole a candy bar when I was like 6 years old, and never stole anything again and has been a good person the rest of my life. You're not going to this area. You know, you got into a fight with your friend and you burnt all their clothes and stuff. You know, that still might not get you into this area. It depends. You know, if you're a good person for the rest of your life. Um, Karmic debt accumulation can be very odd. I think we actually went over a series or an episode on how you accumulate karmic debt. So please go watch that one. It can, you know, it will help you understand. This is for the people who know who they are. This is for the people who have like more than, you know, most of their life has just been really bad. Whether it's your fault or not, per se, like Source is forgiving because Source makes the rules for the auditing, for souls. So there are a lot of things that come into this factor, but environment only plays a small role if you become a very karmic debt heavy person because you always have the right of free will. You always have the right of free will. It doesn't matter how bad your situation is. You can still be pious about it. You can still be neutral about it, even though it's really hard. Really hard. Um,
Forgive, forgive.
no, you don't actually have to forgive anybody. Like
Yeah.
the only person you need to forgive in a bad situation is yourself for not educating yourself, not making wise choices sometimes. You don't have to forgive the other person, but you do have to be neutral about it to understand that maybe there's something here that I'm not seeing. It's unfortunate that this person came this way, but you always have the ability to protect yourself. So that's what a lot of people don't understand. But we'll get into that, I think, in our next series. I think we're going to be going over that.
Hmm.
So this is for the people who have done terrible things, you know, throughout all of their life, have enjoyed it, have been very egotistical to the point of toxicity, and not only to themselves, but to other people for a long time. Okay. Uh, this is called the correction facility. You go in front of the king and the or the emperor and empress of hell. You look through your akashic records. If it is deemed of source for the rules of audit that you need karmatic cleansing, um, then you go. They take you with guards to a boat, basically, and you start go a different boat. Okay. uh you basically go through this little moat area and then you start going into what we call the refinement area. And this area is heavily protected, heavily guarded, for the soul's protections, obviously. Uh, and so nothing gets out either. Not that people haven't tried. But it is an isolated area for souls who have done terrible things to reflect upon their inquiries. And you basically go into an isolated room first. It's not very big. And one of the one of hell's helpers, we should say. Now, the helpers, I want to tell everybody, they have also taken oath to basically be soul correctors. So they are not there to step out of line and be absolutely horrific to you. They are there to basically help you reflect on things. Um, Most people would call these entities demons, and they are there to show you what you have done constantly. This is the room of reflection. So for every misdeed that you did that caused you karmatic points of a lot, like you killed someone just because you were having a bad day at work or, you know, something terrible, you live that instance for however long it takes you to have an what I like to call an aha moment because it's usually that quick to be like, oh, well, that was a very jerky thing of me to do. I probably shouldn't have done that. I need to think about this. And then the soul thinks about it, reflects upon it, been like, wow, I was really a terrible person. I could have definitely dealt with that a lot better. if that was your only bad thing that happened, or if you had several bad things and you have your aha moment, then you get audited again. And then if you have actually learned your lesson of like, well, I self-reflected, I thought about this, I feel bad. I feel like I should not do this and that I should have done something differently. Then you get passed during your audit of hell. This is not the soul audit that all source creation is talking about. That from the source wars, that's a completely different audit. I don't know what it causes to pass that, but you get two choices once you pass your second audit of being cleansed of your karmatic debt. And you can either go into the soul well, get reincarnated immediately, or go into the fun area on Topside to just kind of wait it out until you can get reincarnated. Or you can be a floater if you want, which I don't recommend, but a floater is somebody who decides to not get reincarnated but wants to float around the universe. But in order to be a floater, you have to sign out of any afterlife kingdom, um, which offers you no protection. So you have to protect yourself. And then you can kind of just traverse around certain parts of the Omniverse or the afterlife verses. Of course, you're not allowed into everything because, again, your soul can only resonate with certain universes and omniverses. So, for those who are in the correctional facility for reformation, basically, there are certain souls who just are so egotistical and narcissistic that they can't get past themselves. They've been like, oh, well, I was justified, hitting that kid with the car because I was mad at my ex or whatever. I needed an outlet, whatever. Um, if they can't get over it, then they get taken to, I mean, this is like a reformation reflection of everything you've done. Some people work out certain things. Sorry. Some people work out certain things, but they just can't get past other events that they're just so attached to and just so entitled. These people get taken to the second part of the correctional facility in hell. And this is where a lot of the stories come from of like demons, making your life absolutely miserable, tearing you apart, everything. And the correctional facility is away from the reflection facility. You go deeper into the area and you get thrown into what we call the nine rings of hell. This has nothing to do with Dante's Inferno of like the ring of lust and the ring of like greed and stuff like that. These are rings based upon certain environments and certain entities of, I can't say demons because there's so many species down there for all the dimensions. And these are volunteer entities, by the way, who decide to work work in these rings. Um, these are the entities who like to cause pain, who again, they're still under oath, so they're not allowed to destroy souls. They're not allowed to do certain things, otherwise they can get very much in trouble. And I don't mean a slap on the wrist. I mean like deletion is a is a punishment if it's bad enough. And these entities basically give back pretty much the punishment that the soul who is in the correction facility. They're there to knock the ego out of them. And it's not nice. I've been through several of these rings several times. Uh, because sometimes a good kick in the head is exactly what you need for some people who have a little bit of a harder shell. And they will do all sorts of things to you. It's a whole no holds barred down there, minus the rules that they have to follow, and sometimes it takes getting what you gave to a person in order to break that barrier of, wow, this was terrible. No one should ever experience this. I can't believe I did that to somebody. and you'll stay in these rings until you have a breakdown, like a complete mental breakdown of just like curling up into a ball and crying most of the time. So once that happens, the entities will be like, okay, this person's ready to go back into the reflection room so that they can think about this a little bit more. And then most of the time after that, souls will have the aha moment and think and reflect and been like, that was terrible. I am so sorry. I should never do that again. And then they can go back to, or not back, they can go to having a good afterlife. And most of these souls will need a little bit more rest than others
Yeah.
in the, rest zone of topside, where it's like the vacation area, just because it's so draining to just deal with all of that trauma, deal with, reflecting everything before they get reincarnated.
So that's the part of hell where misfits can be misfits too.
That is the only part of hell where misfits get paid to be misfits. For actually helping source with some hard-headed individuals. Okay. Now, I remind you that it takes a lot of comedic debt to get into the correction facility areas. Okay. Like if you're stealing for food because you don't have a job and you're homeless, depending on the way that you're doing it, the rules of the rules of soul audit in hell are part of the golden rules of Hanova, but they're also part of the universal rules that you come from. So, yeah. So like the rules here on Earth, oh, I have amnesia, I don't know who my soul is, all this stuff, that doesn't allow you to be a bad person. Okay? That's an excuse. You know, super soldiers are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Some of them might be a little bit unstable, but considering everything that we go through, they're lucky they can function.
That's for sure. Yeah.
But we don't go out and do bad things. Like we see the worst in humanity and we don't want to be like that. So we do our best to be a good reflection on it. It doesn't make us the sum of who we are, the way that we were raised.
There's a limit to how far this goes.
Mhm.
And so there may be a soul that goes through level 1 and level 2 until balance is achieved. So all the harm, pain, and suffering that they have caused, they go through an experience. Some are corrected, and then there are those that do not change. And so, therefore, this whole system is problematic, therefore, bringing the need for something more effective, um, which Apollymi is going to talk about. So
Yeah.
it doesn't result in um, correction in many times. It does most certainly result in balance. And so there have been ways of completely avoiding this through the infiltration of the reincarnation process. Many beings avoid this whole thing, and that's no longer a possibility. That's great news. So, souls that have been causing enormous harm, incarnation after incarnation, and then through violations of um, the reincarnation process, would come back almost instantly, many a time with all their memories too. So, that is no longer a possibility, which is amazing. So, yeah, I thought I'll just add that in.
Yeah.
Balance was achieved, but not correction.
And I thank you so much for clarifying that because the aha moments are basically just balancing out. There's no structure. And this is what I learned and like reflected upon everything. Every single time I went down there or that I know people who went down there, we have that aha moment. And of course it's like putting a kid in timeout, okay? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm in timeout. I reflected upon it. But unless you have the environment to ingrain and allow that aha moment to actually grow and settle in a person, it's done within like 2, 3 minutes. Oh, I did that. It's a slap on the wrist, for emotionally and mentally people. And then I get rewarded with this afterlife. And I'm like, this isn't working. Okay. My parents haven't changed this because it's been working since the existence of time. People are becoming resilient to it now, and we're seeing way more influx. And I'm not talking about this universe, we're talking about the whole oververse. Okay. All 7 parts of the Omniverse, people are becoming too reoccurring down in hell. And so I'm like, things have to change. And this is why we're coming up with the new program down there. And, like the Immortal Seven had started this. I'm not sure exactly what time. I just got introduced to it a little bit ago, because they kind of threw me in there,
Yeah.
because I still had stuff that I needed to deal with. Um, but we're now having 2 separate programs in hell for basically instilling individual uh, like ways of keeping their aha moments. We have a program down there that does individual work now with each individual person. It's still in alpha stage. It's not even in beta stage yet, but we have that program. I'm not exactly overly allowed to share a whole lot just yet, but my personal kingdom, not the kingdom of hell itself, even though I'm the princess, but I have my own kingdom down there. And that kingdom is going to be set up in the neutral zone, which means that there is no house wars, no fighting. Anyone attacked in this area of the neutral zone, it has extreme punishments, and that will be dealt with not only by the Emperor and Empress of Hell, but Hell's Council itself. The neutral zone already exists. This is where a lot of the Hell royalty is and nobles. But in that zone, uh, my kingdom will be having its own community, its own therapy areas for more social interactions in a large mass of being able to be reintroduced into society, because the prison planets that me and my fiance in space have acquired, we've already done this to our prison planets. These prisoners were thieves and a whole bunch of, other things. Some of them were just poor people who had to steal for food, and that they were unjustly being kept in these mines to mine in very poor conditions. Their families were with them, and the families didn't even do anything. So we had to rehabilitate these people into a functional part of society, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, because they had been abused and abandoned for so long. And most people turn to crime because they either feel powerless, they don't feel seen, their emotional and mental needs aren't met. So my kingdom's going to be mostly working on that, of getting that, stability within them, and having those, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Temptations, but teaching them in a controlled environment how to deal with those temptations that they've had to deal with, that got them in the correction facility to begin with. So they can learn how to possibly, like, say someone like over drinks, they can have their soul learn how to drink responsibly, and enjoy themselves without having to rely on that in order to feel seen and heard, and feel sated with themselves, and to have it more in a fun environment where everyone's responsible. I go and have four drinks or something with my friends. I don't need to binge in order to have a good time. Same with uh, people who have anger issues and people who have, like drug addiction and everything else. That way their soul can get it, being used to a member of society that feels honored, that feels, granted and desired, and stable within themselves as well for self-assurance, because that's the most important thing. So,
Those are also important, and it's amazing to me that that's not common sense, because I think that's why you started it, is it didn't work that well. And the facts, right, were that you were having too many people return, because when you forget who you are on Earth, even though it's a challenge, what I've studied a lot of psychology, it's one of my major interests, and I believe what I was astounded to find out is that 80% of people never had a person or parent model for them appropriate, loving care with healthy boundaries and consequences, but no violence. And so, to me, if you are constant, if they have no reflection, of course, I understand the challenge. They are forced to be self-referential or completely lose it. But also, I think I shared with you, Apollymi, an acronym called CARE that I did, which is compassionate attention with responsible encouragement.
yeah.
And that I found is the best, because we all need reflections. And if they have no reflection to go by other than abuse, the tendency, I think why they're returning so much, is the tendency is to be in pure survival and just get very feral and just, you know, and even worse than animals in a certain way. Um, Versus like, wow, I actually have one person that I'm doing therapy with or whatever that I can actually trust, or that is clean energy or can role play. The other thing is getting triggered. All these people who've been abused can get triggered so easily. So, do you provide role playing? Like, okay, we're putting you in this circumstance and we're yelling at you and blah. Is that all involved in part of their whole
So
process?
the two processes is when a person gets the aha moment after the correctional facility, because not everyone's going to get this treatment. This is for basically for the people who keep returning quite a bit. Once they get the aha moment, and then they go through a process to see if they're going to be eligible or not. Because some people, when they get the aha moment, they actually literally don't come back for the same thing. And so we have to, because of the sublimited space, we have to identify who's going to be the most potential to come back. So the first part of the project that I'm not involved with, um, or that I'm not responsible for, evaluates these people to do the therapy, do the self-reformation. They give them the skills to become strong enough to, survive on their own, to understand the different options, to be able to do quite a bit of things. And I myself have been going through this facility, and I you guys have all seen like huge improvements on certain things. So even the ET councils, up in space are like, well, she was one of our biggest threats, but we're poking her with a stick, and this isn't what we expect anymore. So, because I'm more neutral about it. Yes, even though I went through my ascension and I'm neutral, like there are certain things that I still had in my being that I couldn't get around. And it wasn't even just some of the trauma, it's the injustice in this world that set me over the edge. And I still polarized, overreacted. And so now that that's been balanced out quite a bit, it's definitely a lot healthier. And so my kingdom is basically going to be the second phase of the first project. And I'm basically going to just have the areas of instilling everything. So, yes, they are going to be doing some role playing, although that's mostly in the first stage projects that they're going to be doing that. Mine is more of getting those temptations toned in to where they can make healthy choices in multiple different areas They don't have to make the same choice over and over again. I give them more of an arsenal to deal with many of the life situations. And of course, this has caused some stirring up in hell because, there are entities down there who are like, well, we make a lot of deals still. And I'm like, this does not mean that it's going to fix all of the Omniverse to 100% where everyone's benevolent and everyone does everything nice. That will never happen. Okay. If it does, it is one of the most rarest accounts ever. There's always
Still
going to be
allowing some pirates in there.
yeah, like there's always going to be some balance, but and people have their free will to make whatever choices they want. But, you know, Earth is no longer a playground where they're just going to come in and wreck up the place anymore. The things are changing quite a bit. And I don't have say in that because I don't have the throne. I'm just the first princess, and there's many princesses and princes that my parents have because they've been around for a really long time. So, you know, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of things that are happening.
I'm so excited about hearing this. Now, the other big issue, which is all related, is the huge percentage of mental disease on Earth. And so, is that being addressed also in these facilities?
Mental disease usually comes from either a genetic disorder, chemical imbalances, your diet, but the diet is also prevalent to what you put in your food and how it's grown. Most of those mental diseases don't really carry over to the astral body. Some of them do, and those will be addressed, as much as possible for the programs. We might not be able to cure some mental diseases, but we can give them the opportunity to have coping mechanisms, to be able to give them the tools they need to be able to live in a more fair environment, like someone who has a soul that has ADHD, okay? Like it happens, but we can give them the skills to be able to make their life more reasonable.
Mhm.
But again, that soul has to be able to want that for themselves. We can give them all the tools that they need, but unless they're willing to pick up the tools and actually use them themselves, they have to be accountable for themselves. They have to want it. They have to be able to understand that they don't need to run away anymore and to give them the support of the heart that they need, that they can do this, 'Cause-
Ed, Amir, what would you like to add to that?
This is well said. The willingness to improve. Another one of the cosmic laws, law of liberty. If you reach for the light will reach back. But there are many that have become degenerates to a point that they don't wish to reach out for the light. They like it this way. No matter how many times they go through this washing machine of the stages of, let's say, correction, there's no change or improvement. And so one may wonder, how may such a thing occur? Do we not all come from the same essence, which is the beloved source? Well, there's a whole lot of, let's say, hijack going on where people, beings mess with the code, knowingly or unknowingly. And so what starts out as generative, ever evolving divine is becoming something that is uncreational. Now, no matter how many times they go through the ringer, there is no improvement. And so, this is the purpose of this wave of audit in the cosmos, identifying that part that has turned into something like cancer. You can't sweet talk cancer into going, something more drastic is needed. Either, let's say, in the physical body with surgery or medication or radiation, it's got to go. Otherwise, it will spread. So this is something that is also there. But as long as there is a will to improve, a will to evolve, see, it's all about this flow of consciousness, ever greater experience, ever more beautiful and profound expression. Somebody says, nope, I'm not going anywhere and I'm blocking the door for everyone behind me. And so that is the current state, which is being addressed in the most compassionate way.
Beautiful. Now, one little thing, this is so great, you guys. You're doing amazing tag team. It was kind of implied, even though Source of All knows, it was kind of implied that um, not all the, I hate the term bad, but not all the mischievous beings were that sincere when they said, oh, no problem, blah, blah, blah. Now, I know that I was kind of surprised and interested. So it's interesting that I don't know if Source itself gets deceived or how that works. But I remember I asked Apollymi, how do you know that the person is sincere and not just outsmarting you, saying they are? Are you telepathic? And you said there's a truth serum oath or something.
So anyone can actually invoke this. And it is the right of you and the right of source of all that there is to speak truth. And any person who comes before you or any frame of thought, anything telepathic message, you basically say to those who are communicating with me, if they're telepathic, or to the entity that of consciousness that is standing in front of me, I demand that you speak truth by source of all that there is. They cannot lie to you. They cannot lie to you.
That's important. That's important for everyone to know.
Right. But it's also important for you to be responsible for your own abilities of being able to hear them. So there are loopholes that you have to be careful. Uh, so, make sure you're not placeboing yourself of what you want them to say or anything like that, because they can speak truth, but that doesn't mean that they can't manipulate you to hear what you want to hear. So be sure that you are in your own mindset, that you are not getting into your own way. Um, so yeah, I also wanted to strongly remind people that my kingdom will not be teaching people like how to cope with everything through violence. It's all about love, care, you know, healthy safe environment. It's not like the reflection center where, they torture you a little bit by getting in your head and, saying like, oh, you did a bad thing for those who are really, egotistical. Or it's not like the nine rings of hell where they do all sorts of terrible things to you. That's not an illusion. They actually will, yeah. Anyway, my kingdom is not like that because even if you look at Earth itself, violence still only spreads more violence. It's okay to kick someone's butt to get that, like, that barrier crossed of you're not the biggest, baddest fish in the sea. But after that, they need to be understood. They need to be, why have you turned out like this? Why have, you had this mindset? And most of it is through trauma. I didn't get loved enough as a child. I had a bad childhood. No one ever saw me, no one respected me. We try to look at all of those. And these people coming out might not be like the biggest Samaritans, but they should at least be neutral. Neutrality is what we're aiming for. If they come out even higher than that of being like the golden child, good for them. That's awesome because a lot of it is their work. We're just giving them the tools.
And also not super easily triggered is another big thing.
Right. So we're trying to get it to where they are letting go of their trauma. They're working through it, letting it go. And then because most people hold on to trauma because they didn't know how to deal with the situation. They didn't have the tools to deal with the situation, especially as a child, or in a situation that you were never around. And it can really, a soul can hold on to it for so long and it can eat at them, just been like, so we try to give them the tools to be able to deal with it in multiple ways. So they have different options. So they feel empowered so that next time, maybe in their next reincarnation, they know enough because it's not a lot of the time that you get shielded from your past life unless you ask for it. Okay, Earth is very different. Again, I haven't been to a lot of seed planets where they cover your who you are.
Memory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never been good experiments. So,
Mhm.
but we give them those tools so that they can figure out what to do, hopefully. And it's not 100%. It is not 100% fail safe because you could go through any firefighter, police officer, all of these people know that you could be prepared for anything and something could still throw you underneath the bridge, you
Yep.
know. And I had to tell Health Council this. I'm like, it's not going to fix everything, but it should at least balance it out.
Right. Well, and you can also tell if something's efficient or not by if every 80% are returning versus like 20.
Yeah,
It's not about perfection. The other pet peeve I have
what my
that
husband said.
is what he
Like,
said.
you're too much of a perfectionist in the wrong ways. Like, it's okay for things not to be perfect. And I'm like, uh,
Well, it's hard. Well, you're hard on yourself too. But here's the other thing, and I'm wondering if this is addressed because I have found people that have even been raised fine. They have not learned clean, clear communication. They really haven't. They either passive aggressive, they either run away, they get triggered, they fight, they overreact rather than just say their truth. They don't want to say no to some. I mean, there's so many levels that are considered okay, but in my mind are immature still because they haven't had demonstrations of how to talk through something. Unless they've been, I know a lot of guys in the 60s that went to men's groups to communicate and learn those things, but your average person hasn't at all.
which should be taught in schools generally.
So is that addressed? Because it's one thing to, be able to handle something, but you could still stuff it down, or you could still have it unfinished because you don't know how to respectfully communicate with someone that you're really disturbed, right? So you're still in a reactive state, or it's hard for me to forgive you. Like one of the things I like to ask people is, what do you need to hear so that you can let go of this?
Mhm.
That's a really good question because,
And most people don't know if they're not really well in tuned with themselves, they're not going to know what they want to hear other than I'm sorry, but sometimes sorry doesn't cut it.
well,
And
actually, what I get back is about 3 minutes of silence.
yeah, that's
But
usually
they don't know. But what it does is it puts back self responsibility and self inquiry, right? Like, because sometimes I'm sorry. I come from a family where no one apologizes.
well, and it's so insincere most of the time,
Yeah. So some of these simple, they seem simple, but they're not taught on this planet at all. It's mostly just like let's fake it and have everyone feel good, and I'm
Yeah.
going to hold and stuff all this stuff inside, and it's going to come out in appropriate ways because I'm not mature enough yet, or gutsy enough, or straight enough, or whatever term you want to use. I don't want to disappoint someone because I'm afraid of disappointment, all these levels. So I find communication is so key, and is the number one reason for destructions of friendships,
Yeah.
everything.
Well, everyone feels like they have to lie to themselves and they're too people pleasing. And even in outer space, one of the first things that you learn is you need to be truthful to yourself. You need to not lie to yourself. You need to be who you are to yourself because you're the only thing that matters. And I know that sounds egotistical, but hear me out. At the end of the day, when you're standing in front of an auditor, are you okay with yourself? Have you done everything that you possibly could in your own heart, not to please everyone else, but to be okay in your own skin of who you are? This doesn't mean you have the right to be a jerk, like all the time. But that doesn't mean you have to be a people pleaser either. You know, say you here's an example. Say your friends want to do something, but it doesn't feel right to you, but you still want to fit in because you don't want to be lonely your whole life. When you're standing in front of that auditor for the karmatic debt, evaluation, and they're going to do something that was against your moral wills that you really didn't want to do, can you live with that choice? Okay, I'm not talking about like, oh, I didn't want the correct ice cream flavor. I'm talking about, them stealing something that you knew that wasn't theirs. Like, oh, but you did it anyway because you didn't want to seem like the uncool kid. At the end of the day, it's not them standing in front of in your shoes. It's you. Are you going to want to be able to deal with those consequences a second time, maybe, and a more severe one, when you're all alone, standing in front of someone who's going to be auditing you for your afterlife? Okay.
Mhm.
I know it sounds religious-y, but this happens with every single karmatic debt creator. And the more you run away from it, the more you're going to build up. So,
Those are great points. And the issue that I find as a therapist, the number one thing, especially with women, but even with men is they don't know how to say no cleanly without
I'm
creating
kind of guilty of this.
without creating some huge drama.
Yeah,
And
I'm
and
kind of guilty of this, but most of them are like afraid to. But honestly, again, this goes into the same thing where it's like you have to honor yourself. If
Mhm.
you don't like something, change it, you know.
Or just add thank you. No, thank you. You know?
Politeness and etiquette actually goes a long way.
Yeah. It's like, so these basic things that are all reflections of a person not wanting to be rejected themselves. So they're acting out and rejecting other people first. But it's a basic psychology if one studies psychology, but it's still a very important skill to develop. And my friends that have actually been in men's groups or women's groups have those skills. Everyone else that I meet does not. So it needs practiced a little bit.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to be kind of polite here, but
Yeah, I know. I'm
it
just blunt.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. What do you think, Amir?
Um, these skills are going to become more proliferated, available to more and more souls. What Apollymi was speaking about is soul alchemy 2.0,
Hmm.
adding that missing element that was not present. So, giving these souls the instruments of transmuting energy in a healthy way, that it doesn't lead to harm or aggression or violence. All and all, the conditions in this world have been extreme, and it's gone on for long enough. Those who would benefit from it have, and now we've reached stagnancy. And so the conditions are being eased, finally reaching baseline once again, which is like most a world, many a world out there where we don't have this intense harshness. Now, there's a fundamental law that will guide us, that all love starts with self-love. Now, if there is a situation or a being that threatens to diminish you or reduce that divine spark or even snuff it out, we owe towards ourselves to protect ourselves. So, this safeguarding and honoring of that which is divine, because we see when maybe certain interactions occur, it results in perversion of the sacred codes, soul codes. Now, with that being said, it can be always done in a gentle way, in a polite way, in a way that is considerate of others' thoughts and emotions. And sometimes it isn't. The healthy being will take no for an answer. That polite no thank you should be enough. And then after that, if there is still insistence, it is one's right to protect oneself.
Mhm.
But this is going to be part of the improvement. This whole holographic reality, this matrix is being rolled out. So all this, it is too hard. It's like an examination that nobody's passing anymore. Those who wanted to pass have passed and done it 20 times over. So it's making it a little bit simple, more simple, giving them little clues, maybe reducing the complexity so natural flow occurs. So all and all, I'm humanity's biggest fan. I think that the future is going to be glorious and brilliant, um, less harshness, because goodness knows there's been an abundance of that. It is not necessary anymore, both in terms of physical evolution of the mighty human. We've surpassed any expectation. Also, the souls that have come here, well, with the harshness, sometimes there's great opportunity. As children, we may see a pirate movie and say, "Oh yes, adventure, treasure," and so there are many souls will come here. They want to experience being a pirate, and then they find out, well, it wasn't all so glorious, you see, and that's the experience. There's value in that, and maybe they be a freaking pirate, and they cause a lot of carnage. They go through the process of hell, and they say, "Okay, I don't want to do that anymore." That is the wisdom of this universe. Off you go to the next lesson. So Earth was providing a niche service,
Mhm.
right? Like these crazy underground clubs in
It's scary.
Germany where, yeah, it's all
What's
pretty hush
yours?
hush. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The doorman has some sinister appearance, and yeah, you go down, right? Hey, this is Earth.
Okay, thanks.
So there's a lot of rules in the neutral zone for the royalty area. In the royalty area, it's basically like living in a very large cavernous um, environment. We have it's huge, very, very large cavernous. We have little glowy worms that kind of live on the top areas, so they kind of look like stars occasionally. It's kind of weird. But I mean, we're talking a lot of distance between the top and everything, but the main castle for the Emperor and Empress is there. And then you have they have a huge garden area. You're not going to find any floral or fauna unless it's specifically planted there. Everything's rock. Everything. Um, After the castle area, you walk down a huge lot, like rows of cobblestone that is placed down. The cobblestone is a light grayish color. The rock itself is kind of more like a slight brown to black. With the eyesight that I have, because every individual species sees things differently, again, the lighting is, except for like the fires that go that are purposeful, in like braziers or anything like that. The lighting looks like the light of a full moon or a very low lit room, like at a bar that you go into. And this is everywhere because there's no natural light that comes from anything unless it's a fire or magic. Now, inside the houses, we do have electricity. Okay, we're not primitive, but it's a type of electricity. It's the same technology that's used basically in Atlantis with the crystal lines. So there's no need for like fire scones or anything like that on the walls, unless you really like that look. Some people do, but we do have some modern stuff. Um, the cobblestones will go off into individual castle and manors. Some people just have mansions. Some people have very extravagant castles. There's a lot of either Victorian style and or very rustic looking buildings, depending on whose it is. You just kind of build it to your own style. You're not going to find a lot of bright colors because there is a law that you can't have the more higher side of pinks are not usually common down there. If it's purples, it's usually a dark purple. You know, the green is definitely not a color that's usually down there unless it's in some of the floral or fauna, which can be kind of rare. Most of the floral and fauna are usually like a blackish color to like a purple to a like maroon and red sometimes. But you got oranges, blacks, yellows, reds, um, deep purples, and sometimes deep blues, bronze colors. Not on the castle, of course. The castle colors could not be bright. I had to make my castle more of a, mine's made out of crystal, but it's black crystal, but it still has that rainbow shininess to it when certain light hits it. So
Prismatic kind of.
yeah, it's just very subtle though. She's like, you can't have a white castle with like all glitter. When you walk inside though, it's a completely different story.
The frequencies, like, are those colors because of the frequencies, or is it because of the different species and dragons and this and that and demons, their eyesight and what they adjust to, and something that's too shiny or whatever could be too difficult for them? Like, what's the reason?
Most of the time it's usually eyesight, but also aesthetic. Think of it kind of like an HOA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, mine would be like the pretty pink with like light blue, like Lolita colors amongst all of these like gothic
Uh,
castles. So, yeah, it could be kind of an eyesore.
but you have the right to do that based on free will, and you're a princess, right? Can't you do that?
No, I still have to abide by rules.
Oh, so okay, okay, interesting. All right. And what about schools and nightclubs and
Oh, so all of the manors are usually in one area. They have territories elsewhere in the realms. So it's just mainly their safe house where they cannot get attacked. It's a neutral zone. Some royalty members participate in the house wars, which we'll talk about later, where they're not so safe for some of their territories. Schools do exist, especially for the children who are born in hell, aka like myself and many, many others. For the nobles, there are certain noble schools that are there. It's just like any other boarding school that you go to. Classes, many different species go there. You know, we all get educated in royalty manners and finances and soldiering and everything else. Uh, alchemy. There are lesser common schools, not overly too much, but they are there. And it's more of like the higher ranking you are, the more educated you are, well, the less common you are, or the more commoner you are, the less educated you are, which I don't agree with. So,
so they have definite hierarchies there, but we'll get into how they can shift that. Now, what about good restaurants or music or anything like that? Do you guys
so
have that?
So you want the entertainment districts, basically. I know this is going to sound weird, but the avatars of Source do shard themselves to have interactions sometimes with other realms. And then they bring that knowledge to hell occasionally. We do have like fast food restaurants, because people do have to, well, they don't have to eat. They choose to eat for the most part. Um, some entities do have to eat. And so I say restaurants in quotations. We do have actual restaurants and we do have like fast food restaurants. We do have some entertainment, like you'll find a acting theater every now and then. You can thank the fallen angels for that. Uh, they do love their plays. Um, we do have musicians and music and everything, but again, you have to have money in order to experience these things if you are hell born or visiting or anything like that. So, and we're not talking, some places are becoming more modern like, we do have a lot of entities that do interact with Earth, both good and bad. Um, you know, we have visitors who come throughout the realm for the Hells tournaments, which we'll talk about as well. So,
What about you said teleport? Are there
yeah,
cars? Are there trucks?
no,
There,
no.
there's nothing like
The Hell is very primitive still, in so many ways, just because some people have the ability to fly, even though there's no fly zones. Some people have the ability to use their powers. Not every species has the same power. So we do have teleporters. When you go to the end of the housing area for the royalty, there's a sigil on the ground where you stand on, and then you just say what district you want to go to, and then you can teleport to that district.
Do you have to use your ability to do that, or does it automatically?
No, it is basically an enchantment that is enchanted to do so, so you don't have to use any ability to do that. Again,
Woohoo!
there are certain magic restrictions in the neutral zones, so you have to be careful, as I found out. Um, yeah. And a lot of the entertainment and a lot of the restaurants and everything are also in a neutral zone. So there's no fighting allowed. I mean, scuffles do happen, but you're not allowed to hurt anybody to a certain extent. And you definitely don't want to be messing with anyone a rank above you in hierarchy because that can lead to a lot of issues for you. Um,
So what about trade or currency or what? What?
we do have our own currency in the realm of hell. You can trade for items, depending, but we do have certain trades with other omniverses and whatnot. That's all governed by the crown. I have no understanding of that too much, so I'm just learning after running away for so long. Um,
Well, tell
so
people why you ran away too, because part of it was,
yeah.
yeah, tell people why you ran away.
So I had been obviously the Princess of Hell since I was created because, like the parents, but I look more celestial down there, and for the longest time it didn't really matter. But as we got more developed in Hell for the history of everything, a lot more of the um, lower entities for like the void and stuff like that, they can start to be a little uh speciest. And there's several reasons for this. One, my energies are, when I have my full energies, they can be very light, airy, very bubbly, very like celestial oriented. And if you know anyone on the opposite ends of the scale of that, like it's like a 5-year-old child who dresses very brightly versus a goth person. The goth person's gonna throw up, okay? Like it's too much for them. You
Is it
know,
painful or is it more of a just a cultural bias?
it can be both. So if an individual is not very well environmented to the more celestial beings, um, then the energy frequency difference can actually make them sick, uncomfortable. It's like, ooh, it's just like you just don't vibe with that person. You're just like, kind of stay over there, get away from me. For ones who are more environmentally adjusted, like they hang out with either the fallen angels because they do kind of carry a more neutral vibe. They don't carry a void vibe, or they just carry a neutral vibe of like more nighttime energies, I would say, not dark, but nighttime energies. Um, they can start to adjust a little bit to being around it and understand the energies a little bit more. Again, this is conscious evolution. This is ascension. Uh, to deal with that environmental flux a bit more. And some of them are just kind of speciest. But again, angelics are also speciest too. So don't
Yeah.
think that doesn't exist because it does.
Now, does this get into this the silver spiral and golden spiral that the silver spiral gets uncomfortable if someone has too much golden spiral next to them because they're more, do you know what I mean? Like someone from a golden spiral is visiting if it's like too uncomfortable. Is there any level?
Yeah, like the energy differences can just be a little too much and they don't know how to adjust to each other. And again, cultural environment also does too. It's not so much the way someone looks most of the time, it's their energies,
Mm-hmm.
and their personalities, you know.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Now, you did mention something, and people will really love this, is about Hermes, the Multiversal Messenger Organization. I think that's so cool.
Right. Okay, so the reason why I left is because A, I looked way more celestial, like angelic celestial, because I'm white and gold and, have red hair. Uh, and I look so much different than everyone else down there, but I just had a really hard time fitting in. I had a hard time making friends, like, and it's not so much their fault, like it's just a part of me apparently. But I also didn't like the fact of some of how the hierarchy of hell works as well, because like hell might not be as bad as everyone thinks it is, but it's still like living in Hollywood where you have to be careful what you say constantly. You have to be careful who you make alliances with. You have to be careful how much you say out of your mouth, who you trust fully. Every single little tiny thing that you do could be used against you. And it just wasn't an environment that I like very much at all. And I just felt like I couldn't grow in it, so I ended up leaving.
I understand that because you're dealing with a lot of cunning and,
Oh,
people.
I'm good at the game. I just don't like playing the game.
But to not have anyone you can trust long term is not like the most relaxing, comforting.
Like I had friends, but again, like who are they associated with, and being royalty on top of that, like any little mistake you make is all over the headlines, you know what I mean?
Oh my
So
God, sounds like sixth grade.
I know, right? Like junior high at your worst moments. So it was just too much for me, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna experience something else. So I'm just now coming back into my role as the Princess of Hell because, a lot of things are changing, a lot of things have happened, and I've realized that I can contribute to something that like all of the Oververse needs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Which is very, very true, as long as you also get fulfilled yourself.
Yeah.
Keep that balance. So what about the Multiversal Messenger Organization?
So the Multiversal Messenger Organization was actually made by the Immortal Seven to transport what we call mail throughout the Omniverse and the or Oververse, sorry. So we're talking from head to tail. Hermes actually does exist. He is actually one of the head people in this universe for messengers. I saw this on Percy Jackson and I spilt my drink everywhere. I was like, oh my gosh, like they did it, they did it. And of course, like five of my other friends are just like, did you see this? Yes. So,
Didn't
because we
you
knew
work?
about it before the movie, I've never read the books. I don't read books, but like the movie even came out because we experienced this as a very young age. I say we as me and like four other people, who were high school and grade school friends because we had been using this service for quite a while. And I actually worked for Hermes for a little bit after I got done being a Terra Guardian for this planet, from the Andromeda Council. So.
What a trip. Now each pantheon has its own messenger, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually they do have their own messenger. It's more of like kind of territories, really. They all are overseen by the great overseer messenger person. I don't remember his name. I've only met him like twice. I did not really get to interact with him. I just got to interact with Hermes. And basically what happens is, like the Reapers, you can sign up for contracts for being a messenger. You get paid some sort of currency, astrally or off-world, and then you basically get the ability to take messages. Uh, it's kind of like an Uber, okay? It's like Uber for mail. You are a messenger, you get marked, you get special permission. And then as soon as a message comes up that needs to be delivered, your mark glows, you teleport to the area that needs it, they pay you the service fee, and then you go and take that message to wherever you need to. There are certain tiers of messengers. Some can only travel this universe. Some can travel only the universes within this Omniverse, and some can travel all the way to Hanova.
And there's multiple Hermes, isn't there?
The only one that I know of who is a messenger.
Wow, seems like they would need a lot of those. And the sigil
No, no,
tattoo.
no, no. These are people. These are actual people who get hired on to actually do the job. So
Okay.
they're actual souls. It's like the Reaper contracts where you can sign a contract to be a Reaper. Souls, you don't have to die in order to be a messenger. You can just ask for it. Again, you take a golden oath. You're not allowed to do anything nefarious, or you will serve consequences by source of all that there is in the Immortal Seven. So,
And the sigil that lights up is wings and a scroll, right?
no, the sigil that lights up is a mark on your chest. The wings in the scroll are actually the mark of Hermes. Every messenger
No,
has
but
a
that's
different.
the one the guardians allow through.
The wings in the scroll are Hermes marked specifically.
Okay.
And it allows you to go to certain places. It basically tells you who your boss is, just in case you mess up. Every head messenger is going to have their own mark, but you will always have the golden seal on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for okay. Fascinating. Really, really fascinating. Amir, how about you and the
And your
have anything
squirrel?
do you have anything to share of the infernal realm or anything that you're allowed to or
Absolutely, sure. Um, Talking about balance and alchemical transmutation. So, first of all, there is an energetic residue or echo of all consciousness, the Akashic records, then extending to the divine library of life. And so this doesn't just go from the physical realm up the dimensions, it also extends downwards. And so there's absolutely records of life in all realms, including the hell realm or infernal realm. And so up and down are from a personal vantage point. Evolution occurs in both polarities. All life strives to reach union with the beloved source. And so, speaking about the Akashic records, my entire motivation of traveling into these domains of consciousness were the libraries. The best I could describe the title or the name of this magnificent energetic library, it would be the Elemental Library of the Divine Flame.
ooh,
Now, Divine Flame uh, goes all the way from void to gold. And so many people have perhaps heard of the violet flame, Archangel Zadkiel and Ascended Master Saint Germain, but this extends all the way down to pure void or black. And so there's something unique about this energetic library where the information that is to be stored is neutralized, alchemically transmuted. And the mechanism of this is the divine fire. It holds um, a complement to the other polarity of existence. And especially if the motivation is balance, healing, or restoring missing light codes, and so on, this provides an incredible treasure of information. So the structure would look like a Greek or Roman temple, white marble, and in the center there's a flame. This is not in the visual spectrum. It balances kind of in the infrared. And then depending on the need, it can take colors all the way up to pure gold or white, or go down towards pure black. So the data, the information is stored in a unique way. It's very matter of fact in the form of mathematics, sentience geometry, and then bullet points, very matter of fact. It is purified of personal point of view, or motivation or agenda. It's a very unique way of storing information, and that's where I spent pretty much all of my time.
Wow.
Um, this is an amazing resource, especially for those wonderful, beloved souls that wish to strive as a shaman. You cannot just see with one eye. You cannot just walk with one leg, and so you have to shed prejudice and racism and incorporate into your toolkit all knowledge with utility. And so membership in libraries, that's what floats my boat.
That's great. Did you have a question there? Your finger went up to your chin like you were thinking of something.
I was just reflecting.
Okay. Okay.
I'm,
Well,
I'm a nerd. I'm a bookworm. I'm a code monkey. Yeah.
as a prime creator, that would make sense. So, okay, let's get really briefly into the purpose of house wars in hell.
Okay. So house wars take place outside of the neutral zone. As we said before, hierarchy has their personal houses in the neutral zone, which cannot be attacked. You're not allowed to attack anybody. There's a lot of laws. However, their territories on the other side can be attacked. The house wars are specifically meant for two purposes. A, boredom, because it does get pretty boring in hell sometimes. Um, but it also allows for one house basically not to stay in power too much or get too ahead of themselves. So it kind of helps balance it out of there's always someone who's got a knife to your back, basically. So if you're not careful, if you don't follow all the laws, it's not like it breaks out into chaos and everyone's at each other's throats. You basically have to come out and say, I challenge this person for this reason. And there's certain rules and legalizations that have to go with that. Um, and it can only happen technically at certain times of the year. Yeah, it's pretty regulated. So otherwise it's just seen as a natural attack and that has way more rules and regulations to go with it and you might end up getting imprisoned and or going through the soul audit yourself. So
So, is this like the duels of old, or is it an all-out war, or?
basically, they end up raising their armies and then just go at it fighting. They'll raid each other's territories. This includes households. People have to understand that there are souls that live here, not souls of people getting reincarnated. That's in a completely safe area. These are the entities who naturally live in these dimensions and planes. Or just wanderers who come in and decide to make contracts with these entities who, say you're a floater soul and you're like, you know what, maybe leaving wasn't such a great idea, but you decide not to sign the book of life exactly to get reincarnated. Instead, you make a deal with one of these entities who are hierarchy that live down there, and now you're their servant, basically. still does not give you protection exactly, but it gives you some protection if you're smart enough to know who to do that. I don't recommend it, but that's just me. I don't like being owned.
So the purpose is to play war, or is it I mean, do astral bodies die? Do they get destroyed? I mean,
Just like anything else, like these entities came from this plane most of the time, and therefore they can get destroyed. The worst that's going to happen is your body dies and you wake up and you're like, well, that sucked.
hmm.
You're already in hell. So, uh,
So it's basically a form of warrior uh, entertainment and excitement in a weird kind of
pretty
way.
much.
But
It's kind of rare that a soul dies down there, but it can happen. Especially for like the imps and the underlings and things that just aren't very hardy for battle. But if you put yourself into a person's services that have great power, they can basically resurrect you. So,
God, this sounds so much like the ancient clan wars and everything else on Earth, you know? You,
if a person who claims war on someone else's house actually takes it over, then they get all those resources fairly. It's almost like a written contract.
so is this a way of letting off steam, getting excited, doing the warrior thing, or is it a way of working your way up? Is this all about power? Is it a way of working your way up into power, more powerful positions, more goodies, more gold, more castles, or what? What's
Well, the hierarchies, the higher you go, does provide more power, obviously. It provides more resources, more influence as well. Um, so the crazy thing is that every single noble, except for my parents and me and some of my brothers and sisters and half in betweens, they weren't born exactly into royalty. When hell was created, there wasn't anyone else around. So the hierarchy that is down there is earned. It is, you can be a child of a noble, but that situation could get taken away immediately if your house falls. So
So does everyone also have to be kind of archetypically a warrior with warrior abilities to exist there?
it is very good for people to know how to fight if you're gonna be a resident of hell of any situation. Because again, it is a very tough environment to live in. There's always espionage, there's always, someone looking at your back with, undeserving eyes. Um, so when the house falls, and I have to say that if you are smart enough, if you are cunning enough, if you know how to do everything really well, you can go from just being a floater soul walking in to ending up being a duke or an earl or even a king if you work at it hard enough.
Hmm.
That's the thing. You can get all of that power, all of that, but it comes with really high responsibility because hell's rules and laws, you are in charge of your underlings. So if they attack someone from the neutral zone, not only does the underling get punished, but you get punished as well. So it's a lot of responsibility to be hierarchy up there, down there.
Oh, wow. So you basically, it sounds like you've got two levels going. One is where you're a bloodline, so to speak, at this point of nobles or whatever. Same thing on the planet, same thing with rulers. But, and at the same time, there's a second level you can have, which is working your way, I don't know if I'd call it merit, but working your way through uh, being a stronger clan leader or whatever, and achieving more possessions, territory, same game as on Earth and ancient history on Earth, correct?
Mhm. And you don't have to be the biggest bulky person. There's many different types of strength, and if you can utilize your skills, then you can be one. But again, it does come with its responsibilities. It comes with its dangers. It comes with a lot of trauma and strife sometimes.
Now,
Excuse me.
most of these people are permanently staying in hell and like it.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is their game board.
Yeah, it's
And
their
this
game
is
board.
how they stay entertained.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Wow. Fascinating. Amir, anything you want to add?
It is life. There, uh, let's say, intervals of reality where life can exist within which, or octaves, let's call them domains. And so there are beings that are born there, they gain experience there, and they evolve there, again, towards unity with the beloved source of all things. And so you will find this to be true from both sides of the spectrum. 95% of the dynamics are pretty identical.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so these souls, they are sentient, they have families, they have clans, they have trials and tribulations, they've got sadness, they've got happiness. It is life. The similar, let's look at, for example, Arcturians, 9D to 12D, very refined, very evolved. 90% of what they experience can be experienced in dimension -9 to -12. It is just difference in polarity. It doesn't make them exempt from cosmic universal law. So, of course, there is refinement, there is evolution, there is degeneration, and so part of the contracts of the natural inhabitants of these domains of consciousness is providing this service for souls that, for example, are incarnating on Earth. It is a service allowing this whole project or experiments to continue. So, the same way that beings of light have a hand in it, the beings of the void also have a hand in it. It is a co creation towards ever greater complexity and providing and facilitating the conditions for evolution, refinement, so a soul can come in and get a really vast experience. This is very rare in the entire cosmos. So it takes a lot of beings, they all provide a service.
Hmm. That's so fascinating. It just seems like the same stuff takes place over and 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 over again. Which kind of to me gets boring in and of
Boring.
It's like a tumble dryer. It's like a tumble dryer. You're going to keep spinning until you're dry. Yep, hey, there we
so
go.
what is okay. And you have free will to send out or whatever. Well, okay. All right. So let's finish up a little bit. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to summarize because we're not given permission to name all the names of all these beings. So Apollymi told me about gave me a list of examples of titles of what exists in hell. For those of you that are interested, I'm just going to quickly do this a couple sentences. So, besides the kings and queens and emperor and empress and prince and princess that she introduced you to in part one, there are great minister, secretaries, chief of law enforcement, chief of staff, treasurer of the throne, overwatcher or governor of the nine hell rings, head reaper, high general, dukes, duchesses, marquises, I don't know how to pronounce this, marchioness, marquisness, countess, earls, viscount, viscountess, baron, baroness, president of the Hell's High Council, Council of Soul Support, and Angel of Death. And the Hell's High Council deals with all affairs in hell, from regulating disputes, which I would imagine would be tons, enforcing rules, maintaining governing records, and judging trials for all of hell. Because Apollymi told me their rules are very strict.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah, like you only want to get the whips of hell once.
Ooh, the whips. Ouch.
Yeah. I've gotten
This
them
stuff sounds so medieval.
where
God.
I think I'm up to 120 lashings for my next one.
for your next one?
Yeah, I've gotten them like 4 times already. Every single time you get them, they up them by like 10.
Oh, okay. So, and lastly, there is an Overlord High General who's already been introduced. So I'm allowed to use
Oh,
this
no, 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 that's just a new title.
for Irenaeus, right?
No, no, it was governed by Euronymous for the Overlord Overseer.
Oh, so that's the new title as of last October 2024. But
Yeah.
that was a title given during Hell's Tournament, which moves us into your story of what happened at a Hell's Tournament, what that you entered.
Oh, so I've been entering in the Hell's Tournament for like the last, 10 years now. Not every year, but almost every year. So in Hell, we have one tournament during Earth time in October. And people have to understand that for every 4 years here on Earth, it's like kind of like 1 year in Hell. They have a lot of holidays, but it's held uh basically Halloween night, so October 31st. A week before that is the Hell's Tournament. And I say Hell's Tournament, it's actually different tournaments every time for the next 4 years, but uh this is Oververse wide. It doesn't matter where you come from. It is an invitation basically for those who are privy enough to have knowledge of it, that if you can astral travel outside of this universe and actually get to the realms of hell, you are considered a guest if you sign up for the tournament. Your soul's protected. You're not allowed to fight outside of the arena. Otherwise, there's huge consequences that you will be governed by hell. And basically, it is a tournament of fighting. There are restrictions. You're not allowed to bring any like mechanized weapons in. That I have to have a dumbed down version of mine. So, so yeah, there is.
What about magical abilities and all that stuff?
If you were born with it, if you have the ability to conjure a mech out of your energies, then they might pass that. But you're not allowed to have like a blacksmith or something craft it for you and then sneak it in as a weapon. That's unauthorized. They go through all of your weapons. They don't really, your abilities you're allowed to have. Anything that isn't your natural ability, you can have. They don't care. So, there are rules like no creating black holes, no creating white holes, that will eat the stadium. Certain things like that. So, and basically you sign up. Usually it's 5v5 for the first night, 4v4, then 3v3, 2v2, 1v1, and then call out day right before the ball, the Hell's Ball. And you can travel with friends. You can just go there by yourself and maybe team up with somebody for the team plays. But you basically go through and fight all sorts of species, all sorts of individuals uh, in these tournaments. And it's a real eye opener to know you might be the biggest, baddest in your universe, but you can get totally stomped in this tournament.
So
I've
this
had my butt kicked more than once.
scale of the gladiators of old, kind of.
Huh?
This is like an upscale of the gladiators of old, the gladiators arenas where they'd come and fight with one another.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so are they allowed to kill?
Mhm. You are allowed to kill, except for it is known that anyone who dies in the arena, as soon as the battle is over, you'll get resurrected by the Emperor and Empress of Hell.
Oh, okay. So
So
this
you don't die permanently. Full soul conscious deletion is against the law in Hell. You're not allowed to do it. Nobody actually has the law to do it. It's against Source itself, except for Source who gives the permission to do so for certain karmatic deities. So you're not allowed to delete anyone's soul. Killing them is one thing, but the body can get re-put in, or the soul can get re-put into the body, which happens after you die in the tournament.
Okay,
So
so this is
if I may add something,
yeah.
we've got this on let's say versions of Paradise or Afterlife with Valhalla,
Oh yeah, with the Vikings.
right? So you see there we are we are from the same essence, and so you would see replications of scenarios and ceremonies all over. Don't be too surprised if many very evolved beings they have the same kind of thing. Uh, it's it's exciting. It's invigorating. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but if anybody has visited the Colosseum in Rome,
That's what I meant. Yeah, I did.
okay, the main energy coming from it is not terror, it's the jubilation of the crowd. It's overwhelming. And so it
It's
has
also
an effect.
bloodlust jubilation.
Well, it was essentially created because when you give beings entertainment, bread, and wine, crime goes down. Look at all the football stadiums. Somebody's team wins and they're ecstatic, and somebody's team loses, and the ones that are going to cause trouble are all in one place. So it has an effect of governance by those that are in a position of controlling order. But yes, it's this kind of thing you can see in many different domains.
It also gives free therapy, free release of like where you can swear and jump up and down and do whatever and get away with it. So
It really kind of does. Like we get people from all over the Omniverse. In fact, I ended up fighting some of the ICC members and some of the Dark Dracos in the tournament a couple years ago. So it was really crazy to actually see them in there and that I just happened to get teamed up against them. I won, of course, but you know, yeah. They put up a pretty good fight. And you get your own weapons to bring into these as well. So the weapons can be forged, they just have power limits. Like I said, my original weapon could not be in there because my original weapon can cut through dimension, space, and time. It's against the rules. So my weapon's also my Reaper
those
weapon.
are so cute as I'm watching you. Your eyes are all lit up. You're all excited. It's just like, woo, when can we get in there next?
Well, I didn't want to participate last year, but mom and dad were like, "You're participating this year." So
Well, because you're representing too, right? So,
a little. I usually fight my mom and dad because they're not allowed to join the tournament. So, because they're too powerful, and so the only time they can join is when they fight one of their kids that's on the same par level. I mean, I get stomped in 5 minutes, but it's fun to just get in the ring with them.
so it tests your mettle, but also from a wise perspective, it or shall we say spy wise perspective, it gives you a sample of multiple species abilities
Oh
that
yeah.
you may not know. So from a strategic viewpoint, it would be interesting. And then I know from both of you, you have your own sense of warrior honor. So how many have that? Like they are not just going in and blindly slashing, but they have this sense of warrior honor of how to fight and things like that, what they learn.
Quite a bit of the people who come in have warrior honor of some sort. It's almost like innate throughout the omniverses to have the same almost codex of at least the basic principles, But we do fight a lot of cross people. We do fight a lot of people who don't really know how to fight and they just come in for the fun and the experience. Um, because there is a huge ball afterwards.
And now tell us about the ball.
So after the
Now,
tournament,
now,
huh?
wait a minute. I want to say one thing, folks. If you watch the Davy Bowie film called Labyrinth, it's an old one. I'll put up a screenshot. There's really a bizarre dream-like ball in it, and I was asking Apollymi if this on any level is a sample of a Hell's Ball, and I think you said, yeah, a more neutral sample of a
Yeah.
Hell's Ball, right?
Yeah. So call out day, you can call out anyone that you have fought in before if they're there, because not everyone stays for all 5 days or all 6 days. But you can also call out someone from the stand. So I fought Lucifer, the Archangel Lucifer last time because he usually participates in the tournament with his some of his brothers. And
Because
again, anybody in the Omniverse can come down here. So we'll get actual archangels from Yahweh's celestial kingdom to come down and fight. So it's a blast.
Michael ever do
I haven't actually seen him participate in the tournaments. Maybe I'll ask him this year if he wants to team up with me.
that? He might be more overseeing the thing or something, but it's interesting. Yeah.
I'll just let him do 2-on-2 with me.
What was that, Amir?
Amir's like me. I'll see if I can't get the team together.
God, you guys are so excited about this. This is
This
like,
is this is most fun I've had in a long time. So, oh yeah,
There's a difference being on the battlefield and fighting for your life and for the freedom of other people versus being in a tournament where there's rules. You're not fighting for the freedom of anyone. You're fighting for yourself. You're fighting to have fun. It brings a huge environmental difference, and we're not having to work through trauma exactly. There are some traumatic things that can happen though, because when you enter this tournament, like you might end up, stripped
dead.
naked in front of everyone, and there are a lot of free flowing rules at this point.
but the
Yeah.
bottom line is you're reanimated.
Oh yeah, if your physical, or I should say astral body, if your astral body gets destroyed, it will be completely reanimated, even if you turn into dust. So
So then I could see why they're not so scared of anything. It's just a question of testing yourself.
no, dying still sucks. Like the fear of dying is still real in there, but at least you know you have a backup plan if they do.
Wow. Okay. Amir,
I'm
giving you
showing up.
a token for this?
I'm gonna probably participate as Odin
Oh, woohoo!
because now something that has not made it quite into the lore is the Asgard martial arts. Uh, this is it is elegant. It's like watching a ballerina at the peak of their performance. And so the weapons are simple swords and axes and spears and staffs. Odin uses a spear, but it's very, very different. Imagine holding the base of the spear with the tips of your fingers and then swinging this thing around and wiping out 1,000 beings. It's on a whole different level. It's something to behold.
Sorry, I got a mental picture of a huge, the untypical, I should say, Viking with the helmet on and all burly, and he's dancing. He's in the tutu ballerina thing, and I'm just like, oh goodness.
Now, are you fighting more than one opponent at the same time or a bunch?
It,
That
it,
depends. If you're fighting one-on-one, it's one opponent. If you're 4v4, it's four of you against four of them. So you better have a good team and you better figure out who's taking on what. And half of the time you'll switch between people anyway. If you're a good team, you really flow very well and then you switch people as soon as they even get close to you. We're talking magic casters, we're talking like monk-like abilities. People with wings can be very difficult if you don't have a long-range weapon or if you don't know how to use long-range powers. Again, people with illusionary magic are always a pain in the butt. Um, some of them are incredibly strong. Some people have charm, what people will call charm or like lust magic, and those are just annoying. But they can be very effective. So you really got to like, it gives you an opportunity to really find out what you're made of and what you can do. But you might put yourself into some awkward positions to get there.
Can you imagine if this got televised on Earth?
Oh, they could show this for pay-per-view and like all of the world would sign up. It's crazy.
I mean, seriously, it'd be like so bizarrely popular or whatever. Oh my God, you guys, we're gonna end there because that is just like so much, and you guys have already signed up. I bet you win like nine. I mean, I bet you win the majority of them, Apollymi, don't you?
I have won two tournaments. So the tournament itself is if you're doing 5v5, then your team wins that tournament. It's not like you do 5v5 and then get knocked down to 4v4. Every single number is its own tournament. So I have won three tournaments technically with my teams. Last year, I technically won last year because I didn't hold back and my parents wanted me to actually show everyone what I was capable of. Um,
Ugh.
so I got to actually be unchained and use my full death abilities and everything else. So I did end up winning, except for I had to fight my dad, and my dad stomped me into the ground in like 2 minutes. So yeah,
Okay, you're a Nemus dad. Who?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what about you, Amir?
Oh,
How many battles are you winning? Most of them?
it's good. It's good, clean fun. Yeah.
I don't know about clean. Usually I come out a bloody mess, but you know.
Oh well, guys, these are the life of cosmic warriors, and oh boy, I tell you. Well, this has been so much fun, and I hope you have enjoyed this series. And I'm sure you've heard here things you haven't heard anywhere else. So, it's amazing to just learn more and more expansive knowledge about what really goes on and all the choices we have and all the options, and to continue on with a respectful neutrality. And so, in terms of contact, Amir, do you want to? Amir, by the way, one of his many things he does multiple healing sessions. I can personally vouch for them. Is he also can, yeah, and so can Paul. He also can remove post-traumatic stress, which I don't know if he has up on his list yet. So, Amir, do you want to tell people how to contact you and a little bit what you do?
Thank you so much. This lifetime, it is my place to serve the spiritual masters. And so it is an honor to come into their presence. Our wonderful audience can find me at wizardofwivenhoe.co.uk.
Okay.
All the rest is contained there.
All right. And Apollymi is mostly off world, doesn't want to be contacted. If you have a question that you would like clarity on, write me at merrily at cosmicbrilliance.com. And if I feel we haven't answered it and it's a very good question that a lot of people will want to know, we will include that in our next show. Thank you so much, you both, for this incredible series and your amazing, respectful cooperation and all the gifts that you've added to my knowledge, but to everyone else who's fortunate enough to listen. I so am appreciative, and I know how busy and how hard you work. So thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.